What's up guys? Before we get into today's review, I wanted to quickly tell you all that I've launched a new YouTube channel. It's called WTP Productions and it's all about Pokemon. Pokemon is probably the one thing I love more than animated shows from the late 90s and 2000s, so I'm pretty excited to start turning that passion into awesome videos. There's going to be reviews of the Pokemon games in the same style as my reviews on this channel, in-depth videos about Pokemon history, mysteries and unsolved questions, and even a podcast dedicated to reviewing every episode of the Pokemon anime. If any of this sounds interesting to you, I'd love if you checked out the channel and subscribed if you like what you see. I've taken up enough of your time though, so let's get stuck into what you're really here for. My name's Brandon and this is Cartoon Network Video Game History, a show where I take a look back on all of the video games based on Cartoon Network franchises and retrospectively review them. While we've already seen a couple of Ben 10 games in Cartoon Network video game history, today really marks the start of the Ben 10 cash cow being milked dry. The next 3 games are all about Ben and his aliens, and there's even a kart racer of all things coming soon. However, the game I'm looking at today is Ben 10 Alien Force, Vilgax Attacks. Vilgax Attacks was released on October 27, 2009, almost 1 year exactly after the release of the last Ben 10 game, and just 1 week after the release of Secret Saturday's Beast of the Fifth Sun. It was released on all the usual consoles, except this time we've headed to the Xbox 360. This is the first Cartoon Network game on the 360, which essentially means this is the first game to truly be part of the HD era of video game consoles. It was developed by Papaya Studio, giving each of the 3 Ben 10 games released so far a different developer. Papaya Studio was active from 1999 to 2013, developing licensed titles like Disney Princess Enchanted Journey, Coraline, and Toy Story Mania. They would also return to the Ben 10 series and develop Cosmic Destruction, and they were the team responsible for Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion. And yes, I'll be getting to Punch Time Explosion soon. There are just 3 more reviews to go after this before I can finally cover the most anticipated game on my channel since Cartoon Network Racing. Y'all just need to be patient. Once again, First Playable Productions were the team in charge of the DS port. They're essentially Cartoon Network's go-to team for DS development. Oh, and the publisher was D3, duh. Critically, Alien Force seems to have done quite well. It sits on a 65 on Metacritic for the Wii version. While that might not seem incredible in the grand scheme of things, that 65 score makes it the highest rated Ben 10 game. The 360 version also scored a 60, making it one of the more highly regarded entries. It received 7s from Official Xbox Magazine and IGN, although the UK version of Official Xbox Magazine did give it a 4 out of 10, which drags down the average quite a bit. Those 2 positive reviews have me quite intrigued. Will Papaya Studio be able to top Protector of Earth? You might be expecting Vilgax Attacks to just follow suit from the first 2 Ben 10 games. You wouldn't be completely incorrect in assuming that, but Papaya Studios seem to have made the effort to shake a few things up as the series landed on the Xbox 360. The first thing you'll notice is that visually, the game is different. The first 2 Ben 10 games operated like your typical beat-em-up, almost in the style of Streets of Rage. While the game still has that beat-em-up personality, the style it's presented in is more God of War than Streets of Rage. As a result, they've overhauled the visual style, and I'm a huge fan of it. The other games didn't look too bad, but this game is next level. Well, next level for Cartoon Network standards. Environments are much more expansive and detailed, and pretty much everything has that extra layer of visual polish. This is a very promising start. The positives keep on rolling when we come to the game's story. The first 2 titles featured plenty of cutscenes, but in Vilgax Attacks this has been taken to another level. Rather than being short little vignettes between levels, cutscenes here are meaty, tell quite a lot of story, and are damn entertaining.
We'll be able to defend more ground if we split up. Go!
Honestly, it feels like some of the cutscenes in this game were longer than all of the cutscenes in Protector of Earth or Alien Force combined. It's always nice to be rewarded with an entertaining little movie after ploughing your way through a level, and it's even nicer when the story doesn't completely suck. Cutscenes are much more cinematic here. The last game took a step in this direction, but here it's executed to a much higher level. Apparently this game covers the final season of Ben 10 Alien Force, and it was actually written by Charlotte Fullerton, who worked on the show. As you could imagine, the story sees the return of Vilgax, who is attempting to destroy Ben Tennyson for good. When dissected as a whole, the actual story isn't much to write home about, but having said that, I still enjoyed it from start to finish. Vilgax attacks Earth and you're sent to the past to prevent it from happening. To do this, you'll have to visit various planets to destroy their energy cores. Yes, this means we're leaving the Earth locations behind for the most part in favour of vastly different interstellar environments. With so much freedom at their disposal, Papaya Studio came up with some really interesting levels to play through, which go hand in hand with the increased visual fidelity. The story isn't without its issues though. My main gripe was that they fell into the trap of just shoehorning iconic villains in again. Pretty much every level has to end with a recognisable villain showing up. While this isn't too bad on its own, the fact that it's been done in 2 previous titles is a little tiresome. I also think they were shoved into the game in the worst way. For the majority of them, there is literally no explanation of why they're in the game. Most of them don't seem to be helping Vilgax or relevant to the main plot in any way. It's like they weren't even trying to hide the fact that they were being inserted into the game ham-fistedly. Let's get back to the positives though. Another step up is the game's combat. I've been a big fan of the combat in the Ben 10 games. Here everything is very familiar. You've still got your light, heavy and special attacks as well as combos, but everything just feels that much more fluid. If there's one thing I never had a major issue with, it was this. I never got sick of fighting enemies, and for the first time I can genuinely say I enjoyed playing as all of the aliens. More importantly, Ben Tennyson actually has access to 10 aliens in this game. You would have thought having the use of 10 aliens would be a no-brainer, but this is the first time it's happened. And to top it off, you actually get to start off with all of them. For a brief moment. The Omnitrix gets overworked or something and has to power down, leaving you with only a handful of aliens. While that was certainly deflating, you start the game with more aliens than you even had access to previously, so it was still a big thumbs up from me. You regain one alien per level until you eventually have every alien again before having your final showdown with Vilgax. Each alien plays unique from one another and they all have different environmental abilities, par for the course in a Ben 10 title. They added a huge quality of life improvement to the aliens this time around too. Gone are the days of having to worry about your Omnitrix meter draining and turning back into Ben. In Vilgax Attacks, you are free to change into any alien whenever, wherever, and as often as you'd like. It wasn't too annoying to deal with this meter and cooldown time previously, but it really added nothing to the game, so I'm glad it's been removed. Unfortunately, it wasn't all positivity in my time with Vilgax Attacks. In fact, this game has a lot of extremely frustrating issues. The short summary of it is that there's just too many janky elements. Platforming often feels unrefined, and there are way too many head-scratching design decisions. Why on earth did they decide to not give you any control over the game's camera? I'm not joking when I say this might be the worst camera in video game history. It is so damn stubborn and just refuses you to show the direction of where you want to go half the time. Every now and then you get a button prompt that will focus the camera on a specific enemy or location, so I'm confused why they didn't just include an option to refocus the camera right behind your character all of the time. I lost count of how many times I screwed up a jump or took unnecessary damage, all because I couldn't see what was going on. The other major design issue I had was the game's intense focus on puzzle solving. While you spend 90% of your time in the other Ben 10 games fighting enemies, here it feels like the primary focus is puzzles. The third level is by far the biggest offender. It just dragged on and on and on with non-stop puzzles. The worst part is that the puzzles aren't even good in any way. They're not particularly clever, don't make you think too hard, and are often executed in a sloppy manner. Most of the time it just feels like busy work implemented to pad things out. If they made me slowly push around a boulder one more time, I would have considered shutting the game off for good. So many times I was left sitting in my chair wishing they'd just let me get back to fighting as the aliens. Alien combat is the main draw of this series, so it really confused me why they seemingly pushed it to the side. My guess is that their over-reliance on puzzles was an effort to force you to play as all the different aliens. I actually don't mind this aspect of it, as it was nice to spend a decent amount of time with all 10 of the aliens. I just needed the puzzles to be toned down slightly, or to be of a better quality. Lastly, there's an on-rails shoot-'em-up section in your spaceship when going between planets. These sections are so utterly boring and dull that Papaya Studio gives you the option to skip them entirely. I have no idea what the point of these little intermissions were, as you don't get any benefits from it whatsoever.
Rated everyone 10 and up. Vilgax is back, intent on intergalactic domination.
Bring it on!
Battle the invasion as Ben, or any of your favorite alien heroes. And explore the galaxy as you defend alien home planets. Ben 10 Alien Force, Vilgax Attacks.
In a lot of ways, Ben 10 Alien Force Vilgax Attacks is a genuine step up. The new visual style is great, the cinematic emphasis in cutscenes pays off, combat is more fluid, and there are plenty of quality of life improvements. It really does feel like a truly next-gen Ben 10 game. That's why it's so frustrating that Papaya Studio continually shoots themselves in the foot with weird design decisions. If they fixed the camera, chilled out on the boring puzzle sections, and polished up the jank, this would easily be my favourite Ben 10 game, and potentially my favourite Cartoon Network game overall. Instead, it comes across as a missed opportunity that I'll only remember because of its squandered potential.